Anybody care for a root beer barrel? It's a tie-in with the book. If you're a little dry, yeah, pass it around.
So much, will do.
No? You want one?
Okay. Thank you.
It's my brother's favorite candy.
All right, so I want to thank you all for coming tonight to hear Chris Davis. I'll keep it short because you're not here to hear me. But welcome to Baxter Memorial Library. We're very excited to be doing this program in collaboration with Gorham Pride. And so thank you to them for sponsoring this event for us and for helping organize everything and for bringing in this lovely crowd. Chris Davis was a lifelong devout Mormon who checked all the expected boxes of wife, mother, teacher, leader, follower, and believer until 2020 when she left her family and her church to fulfill her own personal destiny as a gay woman and independent thinker.
Do you need the mic?
She remains close with her 2 adult children, one of whom is a believing member of the church and the other who is a transgender man who has also left the church. Chris's other works include contributing an essay about her experience of being queer in the LDS Church in an anthology called I Spoke to You with Silence, published in 2022 by the University of Utah Press. She lives quite happily in her home state of Maine, as do we. So thank you to Chris, and I cannot wait to hear more.
Thank you so much. And I have an addendum to that is that I just, this week, I think, just got accepted into a new anthology in the Bangor Literary Festival that they are producing for that event. And so I've been accepted. I wrote a story about, as a small child, walking along the river. The theme is the river. It's called Rivers of Ink. And I'm walking along the river. I'm 7 years old. My brother's like 4 or 5. And we make the trek from BZ all the way to the tree streets in Bangor on a hot summer day with my mom. So that was quite an adventure, and I'm really proud to have that out there and accepted. Thanks, that was spontaneous. Excuse me just for a second, I'm parched. I'm really happy that you could come tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to come and listen to my message. I have cards and pens located on this little end cap and also at the refreshments table that is absent of refreshments, which it's so that you can, if you don't feel comfortable asking questions openly, you can write them down. No applause for that. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the book, the structure of the book. I've journaled my whole life, but I'm really kind of new to writing professionally and writing especially about my experiences over the last couple of years. So the book is I started writing at stream of consciousness and just writing for the sake of writing and see what came out. And I ended up with 2 concepts. And so it was a delightful challenge to learn how to combine those 2 concepts. And so each chapter is divided in half. The first half of each chapter is a nostalgic story from growing up in Bangor, with my brother, with my grandmothers. And then the second half is a traumatic story from being a woman or queer person in the Mormon Church, the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so I develop a thread through both halves of each chapter, and that's generally the what's that called? The title of the chapter. And so that's kind of a unique part of my book. I'm really proud of it. I thought I might read, this is my proof copy that's on a TikTok I released that shows me opening it. It's very precious to me. I thought I might read the first chapter tonight and just, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Let me know the direction you'd like this event to go, and I will be happy to accommodate. I'm really happy you came. Thanks. And thank you to Gorham Pride and also the Baxter Library. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is the cover of my book. I like it because it's like cheerful, but also there's a nod to trauma with the Band-Aid on the wrist. I don't hurt myself, but just the nod to something difficult that I've experienced and that I've come through healthy and happy. Happy for sure. I wanted to reiterate the content warning to begin with of the book. I'll just read it. If the topics of child sexual abuse, the death of loved ones, religious trauma, or the contemplation of suicide make you uncomfortable, please practice self-care while reading this book. It would make me very unhappy and very devastated if I knew that I had hurt anybody with my words. So please be careful and practice self-care while reading it. There's an intro. Don't skip the intro. And my publisher is amazing. They designed it so that the front of each chapter has a, maybe you can't see, the front of each chapter has a forget-me-nots, which is really sweet. I grew up in a big city in the central eastern part of Maine that's considered a small town by worldly standards. Bangor bustled with a couple of shopping malls, movie theaters, an international airport, and plenty of restaurants and car dealerships. It's the home of Stephen King. And yes, I served him pizza once at Papa Gambino's. My childhood, although not without moments of chaos and confusion, was largely idyllic. My summer days were spent outside riding bikes and playing kickball in bare feet. Yes, I drank from the garden hose. Yes, I sold lemonade. Okay, just have a story about the lemonade. We made lemonade one time to sell, and a police officer came and bought a cup of lemonade from us, and he was trying to figure out how to politely tell us that we had forgotten the sugar. So, we didn't sell a lot. And yes, I rode the rides at the Bangor State Fair every year. My summer nights were balmy, and I often fell asleep to the sounds of the harness racing bugle announcing the beginnings of heats. And they're off. All my childhood memories include Stephen, my younger brother. Stephen was a go-with-the-flow kind of kid. He never complained unless there were onions in his supper. Even then, he demonstrated his protest simply by pushing the onions to the side of his plate and not eating them. Once, as a teen, he was served broccoli at a friend's house. He disliked this vegetable so much that he quickly ate the broccoli to get it out of the way. His friend's mother saw that he had gobbled it up, and assuming that he enjoyed it, gave him an extra helping. Yes, the accommodating Stephen thanked this mother and ate the extra broccoli. He was so polite that he didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. Stephen was also a hyperactive kid who had difficulty controlling his impulses. Consequently, he spent a lot of time being grounded. Whenever Mom took away his bike or sent him to his bedroom for punishment, he merely said, "Okay, let me know when," took his bike away. I'm trying to make eye contact. Whenever Mom took his bike away and sent it to her, "Okay, let me know when I can have it back, or I'll just play in my room until the time is up." There was no punishment he couldn't wait out. He endured deprivation with grace and dignity, much to my mother's frustration. This was why it struck us as funny when he was asked to complain about something at school, and he came out with the confession that he disliked bath time. Oh, I didn't tell you the title of the chapter. Oh, well, it's coming up. It seemed so random and insignificant to us, but it was the biggest worry on his mind at school that day. In elementary school, Stephen brought home a writing assignment about something that made him unhappy, in which he had written the line, "Cold baths all my life." That was the chapter heading. Mom was shocked to find out that he hated going second at bath time and that her little boy had been suffering because the water was too cold by the time it was his turn to bathe. To this day, when someone complains, Mom and I grin at each other and say, "Cold baths all my life." Stephen had a peculiar way of waving goodbye when he was little. His arm extended towards you with his fingers hanging down and shifting slowly left and right. It was captured in our Super 8 silent home movies that Christmas that Santa that brought us a cardboard Mickey Mouse clubhouse. The clubhouse was the perfect combo of the toy and the box it came in, which is so appealing to small children. Stephen's little smiling face peered out the cardboard cutout window into the bright light of the camera as he proudly wore Mickey ears and grinned like a child alive with the joy of receiving gifts on Christmas morning should be. It has become a tradition, an understood acknowledgement of our loved one, to salute each other with his wave goodbye every time Mom and I part. It makes us both happy and sad, but mostly grateful for the good memories. Second half. I would like to wait until I'm 16 to be baptized so I can make a better decision. When I was 9, I was invited to commit my eternal soul to the church. What 9-year-old can comprehend such a promise? I had no idea what baptism was or what it meant. My father, who wasn't religious himself but was staunchly against Mormonism, had coached me on what to say if I was ever asked this question. He worried that I would lose my freedom and deny myself life's pleasures if I committed myself to this high-demand religion. My parents were recently divorced, and my mother, who was a convert, held full custody, so she decided it was time for me to join her church regardless of my father's protests. I rehearsed my answer to the bishop in his office as he popped the magic question, "Do you want to be baptized?" After my statement, he rephrased the question, "But you would like to be baptized at some point when you feel it's right, wouldn't you?" I answered yes, and he looked relieved. "And you like coming to church and you feel good here, right?" "Yes." A few weeks later, in the cool of November, as we drove in the car on a road that I loved for the canopy of leafy trees made overhead, my mother informed me that we were on our way to my baptism. I felt confused because I knew what I had told the bishop. He knew I wanted to wait. Did he misunderstand me? Did my mother just insist anyway? Was this just another thing I was too young to comprehend? I trusted the adults in my life, but I was confused when they contradicted each other. When we got to the church building, I was told to put on a plain white starched cotton dress. There were 2 other girls there for the same reason, and I recognized them from my few children's Sunday school visits. They were a year younger than I was, and they looked nervous too. Spectators sang hymns accompanied by the upright piano, and speakers gave talks that I can only assume were appropriate to the occasion, though I couldn't concentrate on what they were saying. When the moment came, the faux wood vinyl accordion curtains were pulled back to reveal a baptismal font full of water. There was a soaking tub in the church. The first girl joined her father in the font. No one was alarmed when he said a prayer and dunked her under the water's surface. No one but me. I was mesmerized by the spectacle and had to be asked twice to come forward for my turn. The tepid tap water soaked my lace-trimmed socks and the hem of my borrowed white dress as I stood on the first step. I saw a man coming down the stairs on the other side, and I recognized him as someone who came to our house occasionally to visit. My dress ballooned as I descended into the tub, and I pushed it down, willing it to stay that way. The man held my hand. The man held my wrist and instructed me to plug my nose. Everything went silent for a second or two that I was under the water. When it was over, I felt relieved until one of the official male priesthood witnesses announced that I hadn't been 100% immersed and had to repeat the process. Shivering, my dress stuck to my pre-adolescent form, I waited for the prayer once again and submitted to the second dunking. All I felt was wet. Cold baths all my life. This was no miracle. This was a trick. Again, I trusted the adults in my life, but my trust was misplaced. Many times over the years, teachers and leaders informed me that I had to remain faithful to the church because of the obedience I promised at my baptism. I was completely ignorant that I was making an eternal covenant with God, yet I was committed forever to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Last year, when I was considering this memory and anticipating writing about it, I asked my mom about the interview I'd had with the bishop. I wanted to know whether he told her the speech I had prepared and delivered about wanting to wait. She had no idea what I was talking about. The bishop never told her. Apparently, he took it on himself to approve my baptism without dual parental consent, and even in light of my discomfort with the idea, and even in light of my discomfort with the idea. Even at 9 years old, I was being groomed by the church. This began my lifelong bewilderment with those in positions of power ignoring my feelings. It was then that I began to realize that I couldn't trust the adults in my life. But there was one adult I could always rely on, and that was my Grammy Sullivan. I go on in the next chapter to read, Grammy, get your gun. I'd like to thank our friend for filming tonight. Are there any questions that you'd like me to address right away, or just keep talking? Are there any current active Mormons in the crowd tonight? Are there any ex-Mormons in the crowd tonight? Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you. I just wanted to know my audience, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I am very, very happy to be here tonight. Let's see. Let me tell you about my Grammy Sullivan, I call her in the book. Everybody's names are changed in the book except mine, my brother's, and Stephen King's. My Grammy was she was like a mother to me, and she, how do I put it? She was a grounding influence. She was a cheerleader. She was a perfectionist in all the right ways, and she valued so much her family and the commitment that meant, and the involvement that meant. And she taught me a great deal about love. I appreciate her so much. As you'll learn in the book, she passed away when I was 17 in high school. But I still treasure the connection that I share with her. And I don't know what I believe spiritually. I have to be honest, I'm still learning that. But there are times when I refer to it as her spiritual signature. I feel close to her. I feel like we are still connected, which makes me very, very, very happy. I'm not sure if I should share this. I guess I will now that I've mentioned it. I just recently got some phenomenal news regarding my Grammy. There was a camp that it was her place. It was a family camp. My grandfather built it in 1962, way up in Aroostook County, on a lake, and it was the place that I really could feel comfortable being myself, whatever that was. And I didn't even know what that was at the time, but I felt like I was safe there. And I felt like Grammy was always there, even after she passed. I relate in the book a story of my cousins and I going up shortly after her passing. And my grandfather trusted us with the keys, and we went up by ourselves, my two cousins and I, and we just basked in the Gramminess of the building and of the grounds and of the water and the sounds and the birds and the loons laughing at us. It was just really, it was such a memorable trip. I have recently been informed that the camp is for sale by very just abstract connections. I have been given the opportunity to purchase this camp. It fell out of our family's camp family's care about 10 years ago. And so, gosh, I'm really excited about the possibility that I could be close to Grammy again. She used to decorate the walls. They were like the wood there were cedar wood planks that covered the walls, and she had attached plaques all over the camp of like funny sayings and that kind of thing. And my favorite, which I included in the book, is Ma love Pa, Pa love women. Ma caught Pa with 2 in swimming. Here lies Pa. So that's just an exciting possibility that's come into my life randomly, and I'm so excited about it. So that's pretty exciting.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
How old were you when you finally started questioning the church beliefs and had the courage to start your own thoughts on where you were heading?
That is a great question. The question was, how old was I when I started to question the teachings of the church and my commitment to it? I was embarrassingly old. About, what was it, 2017, my questions were piling up. And the church, the women at church had taught me this concept of if you have a concern, put it on the shelf, in the closet, close the door, and don't worry about not having the answer right now. It'll come later, everything will work out. And my shelf was getting unbelievably heavy. I had already figured out that I did not fit in a heteronormative family situation, although I had made a commitment to raise my children. Let me back up just a little bit. I met all the milestones during my life of, I went to church class before school every day in high school, and I served a mission for the church. I was married in the temple in Utah when I did get married at 25, to the exclusion of most of my friends and family, because you have to be deemed worthy to enter the temple. And so I got married and I started a family. And about 7 years into my marriage, I discovered that I had made a terrible mistake. And I had made a mess of not only my life, but other people were involved at this point. I had 2 small children who were highly dependent, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do. The thing that made me really wake up was the passing of my brother. He died tragically, unexpectedly, and his passing really made me dig deep and try to figure out what I wanted out of life, what I believed, and so I made a plan that I was going to commit myself for the next 17 years to raise these children to adulthood, and then I would be free to end my life. There are theological reasons why I made that decision, but it seemed to me the most hopeful possibility that I could come up with at the time. And so for 17 years, raising my children, I died every day. And so in 2017, I began asking some questions at church, and nobody had the answers, and nobody wanted to explore the answers. They were forbidden, and so I wasn't exercising enough faith. So I see a nod in the back. And so I went ahead and started looking at outside resources. I had 2 friends who were also questioning. We sent out secret signals and received those signals. And so there were 3 of us from church, 3 women. And we would meet every week at Starbucks, which, if you know anything about Mormons, we were sure not to run into any coffee drinkers there, anybody that we knew, any Mormon drinkers that any Mormons that we knew, because Mormons don't drink coffee. So we would like sneak into Starbucks and we felt safer there. Weird. But we started comparing notes and reading books and studying and researching with the intention of fortifying our faith. And it did not end up that way for me. I can't speak for them, but they're okay. And I just had such a moment of disillusionment, and I realized, I read the book Combating Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan. I see some nodding heads. And one of the chapters in that book is dedicated to my church. So I had a lot of thinking to do, and I was devastated to recognize after reading that book that I had operated as a cult recruiter on my mission. That was very upsetting to me. I wish I could see everybody's, I wish I could see everybody's face. So I had one foot out the door. I had already told the significant relationship in my life that I was going to leave the church after the kids had graduated. You know, I was like, I don't believe this anymore, but I will do this for you, for them. And then my 15-year-old, my youngest, came out as trans. He came out to me alone. And in that same conversation, when he came out to me as trans, I came out to him as a closeted lesbian. And that began a new chapter, a new connection that I had with my child. He went ahead and made his identity and preferences public. I was not prepared to do that because I still had another 3 years to go. And he kept my secret for me. But he came out on YouTube and just announced, hey, he was non-binary. This is my new name. This is my new name. These are my new pronouns. Just, hey, heads up, guys. And the bishop got wind of it. He's the father of our congregation. And he called our family in to manage expectations early, he said. And we had, I appreciate so much that there's a connection here tonight. And so we did. We went into the bishop's office. We were called in, my husband and I first. And we had 3 meetings. And over 2 weeks' time, and he made it clear that there was no such thing as non-binary gender, and that gender roles were established before we were born and will continue for eternity, and there is no varying on that, and no changing your mind, or no recognition that it may not be a permanent thing for a person who is assigned a gender at birth. So my child handled this so gracefully. I'm so proud of him. He had a list of questions, and he asked them one by one to the bishop with the intention of trying to stay in the church, trying to make it work, trying to figure out if it was possible. And the bishop made it clear that those 2 things were incompatible. And so after the 3rd meeting, I got messages from my friends that the bishop was contacting them that day and outing my son and telling them that they were not allowed to use the name and pronouns. And I texted him. And I said, are you telling people about what we talked about in your office today? Assuming that it had been privileged information. And he said yes, that he was trying to protect the congregation and the other youth in the congregation. I gave him 3 chances to defend. He defended himself. I gave him 3 chances to own what he had done. And he defended himself 3 times. And on my phone, my husband was on this text, on my phone, I typed the words, "You are a prick." And I waited. I was like, do I really want to commit to this? Because there is no going back from that. That is sedition. That is definitely forbidden. And I hit send. Thank you. It was a moment of claiming myself and claiming my autonomy, my sovereignty, and my authenticity. And he didn't respond. He still has not responded. I don't need to assume what he would say. And so my kiddo and I left the church. And the other two members of our immediate family stayed and still are staying. My son and I would meet at Panera on Sunday mornings instead of going to church, and we would toast our milky white coffee and our sweet tea that we were learning how to drink, and we just would bear our testimonies to one another, and to put it in church vernacular, that we were so thankful to be away from the church finally and to be able to live our truth and just be authentic and think for ourselves. It was quite a celebration. We did that every Sunday. And shopping on Sunday is not permitted as well. So that was like just triple whammy. We were doing it the best we could. But yeah, he and I grew so much closer because of that experience and because of that bonding that occurred because of the experience we had had in the church. I have zero regrets. I am very comfortable with my decision, my choices, my current situation as an out lesbian, and as a speaker of truth against or beside the church. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to say? Yeah, that was a long answer. Sorry. Sorry.
Wonderful.
Okay.
No, I felt like you evoked Bangor so well. I'm from
Oh.
Eastport.
Oh, no kidding. Wonderful. You probably spent a lot of time there.
Yes, that was the big city. You were absolutely right in labeling that way.
My family, just as a side, has a camp also in, my other side of the family has a camp in Steuben. So, yeah.
Yes, but I just wonder, when you said adults and you mentioned, maybe you said teachers, I can't remember exactly, but maybe there was a safe space at school, maybe in high school there were some teachers. I'm a teacher.
For
I
me?
just wonder, yeah. I know that when I was growing up, I don't think anyone was out. I don't remember anyone from my high school class, being out at all as a teacher
Yeah.
or as a student. So
Right.
I just wonder, I don't know how old you are, but I wonder.
I am 52. My experience with that in my hometown is unfortunately not a positive one. I was 13 when Charlie Howard was murdered for being gay. He was beaten to death and thrown in the river for his queerness. That sent a huge message to everybody. I have a friend here from Bangor tonight. And the reaction, the worst part was the reaction of my friends and family, because they thought it was so funny. They called it the Chuckahomo Bridge. They thought, good, he got what he deserved. And the young men who committed the crime were my contemporaries. They were just a few years older than me in high school. And so I thought to myself at 13, if I had inklings from the age of 7, I thought to myself, if this is who I am, I can't ever say anything, because it is physically, not only socially, physically unsafe. Look what happened. And so I for the first time this year, I was out in Bangor. I went to Bangor Pride and had an amazing experience. There is a monument not too far from the place of the parade where Charlie Howard is honored. The parade, I watched all the rainbows march by, and all these people were like okay with queerness, which was completely unexpected. And I had no idea that Bangor had progressed so much in that time. And I just stood there and just felt the emotion and the significance of that moment of being out in my hometown. It was a great gift for Bangor to welcome me. I actually had an author event that day at the Briar Patch because my book had just come out. And so I celebrate where I came from, and I celebrate how far the community I came from has come. Thank you for asking. Are there any other questions? Yes?
How large a Mormon population is there in the Bangor area?
You-
Is there your own temple up there?
There is not a temple there. The closest temple is Boston. But you would be surprised how many Mormons there are there. There are 2 congregations.
Where do they worship on Sundays or whatever day they worship?
Yeah, a chapel, yep. There's a chapel there that they share. It's actually a central place for surrounding congregations to meet it's called a stake, or it would be comparable to a diocese, where they would congregate for special meetings and events. So yeah, there are quite a few, and I have quite a few friends still there who are in the church and out of the church, still living in the area. A lot of my family is there as well. But only my mom converted. My father didn't when I was very young, and so I don't have LDS family or Mormon family there. But there is a large population. Yes?
I just wanted to ask you, I have in my own family one branch that's Mormon,
Okay.
and I've always avoided them because I don't like anything about what they believe or practice in terms of religion. And so then I was really pleasantly surprised on Facebook a few years ago to connect with some of the next generation of that Mormon branch. And the way I connected with them was, it was like June, and I found pride rainbow rings around their Facebook portrait pictures. And they're not gay themselves, but they're very supportive. And I can't really understand, because the family is very involved with the Mormon church and has for decades been very involved with the Mormon Boy Scouts of America and things like that. And I'm not clear how they're being able to be openly supportive of gay things and still be so involved with the church.
This is a difficult straddle that a lot of, especially the younger generation, is struggling to express to the church and to the world and to their communities. I am seeing the trend that younger people don't have all of the history that we do with the taboo nature of being queer. And so they have been more accepting, more open, more welcoming. The church is not led by those people. They are old white men, and they are committed to their position. They will die on this hill. And so I appreciate the struggle that these people, your family, are going through. There is a group of women who originally started as Mormon mothers of queer children. They're called the Mama Dragons. I'm a Mama Dragon. They are committed to supporting their children at the cost of their faith if need be. They are a strong voice for inclusion and acceptance. And it was early on when I joined the Mama Dragons, I made a post about my situation. And one of them privately messaged me and said, "Run. You cannot make this work. This will only hurt your child." And being a closeted queer person myself for nearly my entire life, I knew with certainty the damage that was going to occur to my child, both inside and socially in the culture. And so I fought with her a little bit, and she stood her ground, and it was only a matter of weeks before I was out of there with my kiddo, because I knew the self-hatred that I had absorbed over the years, and I knew that I had to hide, and I had to pretend, and I had to fake a heteronormative life in order to conform and in order to be deemed worthy. So I appreciate the struggle that your family members are going through. It's a difficult part of their worship right now. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to address that.
I don't have a question. but I'm really touched by how you had sort of come to this realization about yourself and decided to wait it out, like wait out, let the clock run out on raising the kids. But as soon as your son came out, you were just like, nope, that's it. We're out.
Right.
Just that, I don't know. There's no, just a comment. I think it's really sweet.
Thank you. There's a trend on TikTok called Ex-Mormon because. And I put my plug in there, and I explained that exact situation of like, I could absorb this all day long and hate myself quietly, tacitly, without any knowledge of anybody else. But to see that aimed at my kiddo, I was like, I will not do that to my child. I will not. I will not force him to experience that. Because he wanted to stay. And I was like, you can't. We can't. We're out of here.
You talked about the self-hatred. The physical, and you made a point to say you don't harm yourself.
I just wanted to make it clear. Is that inappropriate?
No, but do you think that it, like, you sort of gave yourself an out by that 17-year commitment and then you were going to die, that otherwise, wouldn't you have physically had some physical ramifications of that self-hatred or all of that questioning?
Could you make your question more specific?
For instance, at an Al-Anon meeting, you find out that, people don't die of alcoholism, but the people, you internalize that hatred, and it makes you physically ill.
Oh, physical manifestations of, I'm sorry, I'm not repeating questions, I apologize. Physical manifestations of the intense emotional impact and self-hatred. And she talked about referring to my cover of the Band-Aid on the wrist. And by the way, my cover artist was amazing because she attached forget-me-nots with that Band-Aid on the wrist, which is so meaningful because it's, well, I don't want to forget where I've come from, but also, what if I had gone through with my plan? Forget-me-not. Remember. I definitely experienced a lot of depression as a result of my self-hatred, self-loathing, I would call it. I experienced a lot of cognitive dissonance, like, how can this be wrong? I don't understand why this is such a threat. But I did not dare to explore what it was that I was attracted to. I was very much in a small life, in a small family, in a small house, making myself as small as possible. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think that really speaks to it, making yourself as small as possible.
Making yourself as small as possible. I expected more heckling. You can leave the camera where it is. I'm going to grab a drink. Thanks. I saw hands and I missed them. Yes.
How did you approach talking to the people that you were going to write about in the book? Like, did you tell them before it was published? Did certain people maybe and some people maybe not?
That's a great question. How did I approach telling the people that I wrote about in the book that they were going to be in the book? With the exception of my immediate family that I had created and my mom, I didn't care what they thought. I haven't been a big part of their lives, partly because I alienated them as a member of the church with my missionary efforts and my insistence that I had all the answers and all the faith and it was alienating. But even after I came out, I didn't get a lot back from my family. And so, sorry, I messed up where I'm standing. I didn't. I have an aunt that I wrote about in my book. Very fondly, I love this aunt. We haven't been in contact for years. But I tell a story about how she carried gum in her purse. And Aunt Nola is what I called her in the book. I did not tell anybody who she was, but I talked about how for kids, can I have some gum? It was always like, oh, can I have some gum? And so it was mint gum, which is the worst kind of gum, but she would let us have a piece if we gave her a kiss. And in my family, we kiss on the lips, or did. Aunt Nola had a hairy lip, really hairy lip. And so it was like, do I want the gum? Do I not want the gum? Like, what am I willing to do? And the name of that chapter is, to get the gum, you have to plant the kiss. And even the neighborhood kids would have to give her a kiss in order to get that gum. And so I didn't tell her ahead of time what I was writing about her in that book, because at the time of writing, we weren't in contact. And so she was really excited. I got glimpses of, like, on social media, she'd be like, oh, I'm so excited you're writing a book, and I can't wait to read it. And I was nervous because I had no idea she would come out of the woodwork. She's been a little distant since she read the book. Not sure she wanted that told to the world, but here we are. Surprise! Mostly, I had to get past the point of asking for permission to speak. I had to speak my truth. I wasn't prepared to alter my message because somebody else was uncomfortable. And I didn't give any names. And I didn't say anything that was too disparaging about most of the people in the book. And I tried, even with the people that didn't come out looking great, I tried to cushion it in a way that would be less harmful, less painful. But it is my story. And why would I feel, I had left the church in a bold assertion of boundaries. And so I guess I did the same with my family a little bit, and I just decided, this is my story. And who is anybody to tell me that I can't tell my own story? And in the book, I don't attack the church, just for reference, but I do tell my story, which does not make the church look good.
Okay, one heckle.
Okay.
I disagree about the gum. I think mint gum is
We have a vote for mint gum in the second row. Okay.
And also, as somebody who knew you growing up, I am so grateful to your son because you're still here. And I just hope you can pass that on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My good friend said that she is grateful that I went ahead and made that sacrifice in the name of my son, but also that I'm still here. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm happy about it too. I have a lot to be happy about now. Yes?
Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
Okay, so I was supposed to see the Book of Mormon like just when COVID hit, and it got canceled. It is good. I'm looking forward to it. I've listened to the music. I'm looking forward to one day. I hope it comes this way or close enough. Boston. I do intend to see it, yes. And I intend to laugh at all the inappropriate points. And I've been told that members of the church or former members of the church laugh at different parts than the general population does. So looking forward to experiencing that. Who's seen that? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. Worth it? Okay. I will do that. I have to admit that some of what I've listened to of it is quite triggering. Like when the missionary is bearing his testimony. It's the language, it's the cadence, it's the voice. I can't listen to that song. It's too triggering. I am not sure what time it is. How are we doing, Nissa?
We're okay. It's almost 7.
Almost 7.
It's almost 7. We do have, if anyone has any other questions for you, now would be a great time. But we have books for sale, thanks to the Bookworm.
Thank you, Bookworm.
We have some refreshments available in the back. And we have Chris, for as long as she's willing to stay and sign books and talk to you. So
I have nothing until 11 o'clock tomorrow. Yes,
I hate to be greedy, but can I ask one more thing?
please.
What would you say to students now, or to kids now? You know, like, how can they have a different story from staying closeted and staying secretive and staying ashamed? Like, now seems to be such a different time. Like, Gorham is trying so hard. We had our first Pride. You know, there are hecklers. It is tough, you know, but some kids are feeling strong and some aren't. And would you have some advice on how to, you know, help people feel like, you know, they can be true to themselves? Whoops.
Yes.
Than you were able to maybe, or.
Thank you for that great question. She's asking what advice I would give to students. What age group are we talking about?
Well,
Doesn't matter. Okay. What advice I would give to students so that their story isn't like my story. A feeling of hopelessness, a feeling of abandonment, a feeling of not being able to be true to yourself. I would say, first of all, you made a good point. It's a different time. We're living in a different time. And so there are so many resources available now. Gorham Pride, where are you? There you are. And it is becoming much more socially acceptable to come out, to be authentic, to be true, and to end all the messiness before you figure it out. It's safer now, and it's more comfortable, not that it's comfortable. So my advice would be to surround yourself with cheerleaders, to surround themselves with a community of adults and contemporaries who are supportive, or who are at least willing to listen, willing to be supportive. I could not have made the big steps I did without support from friends, without the support of the queer community, without the support of the ex-Mormon community. I didn't feel comfortable leaving with nothing to reach toward. And so I had to set up a safe place for myself before I came out. I don't know if that would be the same experience with younger children. I know there are GSAs in school, which I was involved with my kiddo, which give great opportunities for education and exploration. And there are so many resources available online that we just didn't have when we were young. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I might be not very naive, but have any people thought about setting up like an alternative version of the Mormon Church that's more liberal? Or would that be too heavy duty, like they would be all these people from Utah coming down on them?
It's a valid question because the church is powerful. So the Community of Christ, which is used to be the RLDS, Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has absorbed a few members because they still believe in the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. They believe that the authority of the priesthood came through a different line handed down from Joseph Smith. Personally, I don't want anything to do with it. I like thinking for myself, and turns out I don't need an intermediary to reach the divine, whatever that is. Like, if the universe wants to tell me something, she will tell me. I don't have to go to somebody else to receive messages.
No, I just thought there were some people that weren't quite ready to make that move. And,
Good point.
and so they might need like an intermediate point. But.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying with the previous question. Just to reiterate, he said they need maybe an intermediary support before they decide whether they want to be an organized religion or not. It's a really good question. Whatever form that community takes for that person is what they have chosen and what they've sought out, and I respect it completely. Whether that be another church or another community, not even faith-based. I know a lot of, I can't say a lot, a few of my friends have explored the Unitarian Universalist Church. A lot of people find a place of safety there. It was not my experience, but I respect that completely. Yes?
What is a GSA that you...
I'm reluctant to say the words that I learned that GSA meant. GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, was what I was taught, but now I think it's gender, help me out.
Gender and sexuality.
Gender and sexuality and allies. Thank you. Yep, that makes sense. They called it covertly, overtly, they called it diversity club. So there are different monikers, but the intention is the same, to support those kiddos that you're talking about. I highly encourage involvement in that. Mm-hmm.
I have one more question about your decision to come back to Maine. Was it hard? Was it easy? Did it feel like coming home when you came back?
Was it feeling like home when I came back to Maine? Maine had been calling me back for a very long time. I grew up in Bangor. I was born in the county. I really wanted to come home. The industry that my husband was in is not here for his work. And so we just didn't have that opportunity. And so as soon as I knew I was liberating myself from that situation, he's not a bad guy, I ran back to Maine. However, I did not run to northern Maine. I ran to Portland, which I have zero regrets about. But it's also a good question. Wow, great thought-provoking questions tonight. Thank you. I was concerned because of my history with people from the state, and I know there are people that I am close to and not close to, and what their strong feelings are against how I live my life now. So that was a little bit scary, but I thought, this is my home, and I need to contribute to the furtherance. I need to contribute to the forgive me, I'm not able to capture the word right now, but just I wanted to be a representative, and I wanted to be a vocal advocate for my chosen family, my chosen group, the people who have supported me in the queer community. I wanted to be there for them the way they had been there for me. So I am very, very happy to have made the acquaintances of many in the queer community, some of whom are here tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. I feel you. I would be happy to have private conversations with anybody. I love to meet up for coffee. Actually, my favorite drink is dirty chai. So yeah, I'd be happy to meet up for coffee or whatever if anybody would like to talk privately. I'm going to be in the back signing some books, and so I would be delighted if you'd come and say hi. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.